Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and boy, are you in for a treat today. So today's episode is a little bit different. It's a recording with my friend Jenny Hunt, but it's from a webinar that we did last night in my Amazon Legends group. And it was so good that I just want to share it with you as this episode, because it's a strategy that I've been meaning to bring to you anyway. And it's about Kindle Direct Publishing. Now, before you hit stop and go on to something else, let me tell you, this is a strategy that you can use that will can bring in income with $0, zero experience. You don't have to buy any inventory, and you don't have to be a writer. So think about like journals or log books, exercise books, exercise logs, time logs, mileage logs, any type of book and you can just do a search on Amazon for some of these things, but journals especially are ones that are super popular, and you can do it through Kindle Direct Publishing, and you don't have to write a single word. So super cool. I'm really excited to bring this to you. If you're interested in learning more about that, Jenny has a class that is starting on Monday. As we recorded this, it was March the 31st, 2020. So on Monday, right after that, she has a class called 10 Books in 10 Days that you can jump into. If you're interested in that, go to streamsofincomeradio.com. The link will be in the show notes. This is episode number 34. Enjoy. Jenny, thanks so much for being on with me on the Streams of Income radio show. You're you've been on more than anybody.
Wow.
I guess. So super cool.
It's been fun.
Doing it.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So tonight we are talking about KDP, and if anybody knows what that stands for, you get some extra bonus points. But you are really good at this, and it's a strategy I think that somebody can use. It's $0 to get started whatsoever, and you could build a serious business off of this strategy. So tell us about KDP and what that is, and how. And I know you got a presentation you can get into, but what is it, and how can we benefit?
Yeah, let's go straight into the presentation if that's okay. Yeah. And I think it'll work well with your listeners.
Absolutely.
So we are calling this zero out of pocket cost replenishable. Okay, so replenishable is a word that, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, is a word that I think is pretty well known here with your listeners and in the Legends group. And so we're going to talk about how you can use KDP, the value of KDP as a replenishable that doesn't cost you anything. This is, I think, really key right now in the times that we're in. People are maybe being a little bit more money conscious, want to figure out how to generate revenue streams without having to invest a lot. And this is a very sweet opportunity that is available to everybody. So let's dig into that. So yeah, okay, so it's kind of funny that you asked what is KDP. I think we could come up with some pretty funny acronyms, which I should have probably came prepared for that, but it's been a long day, so I didn't really think that way. So maybe there's a prize to like the most creative acronym meaning for KDP. I don't know. But what is
a prize?
Who wins? What'd you say?
Whoever the most creative wins a prize.
Yeah, because a lot of you probably know what it is or have heard it before. Even, whatever, but there's just some funny things I think we can come up with, and I'm all about having fun. But so what is KDP though, and really why in the world should you care? KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, and that's important because it is Amazon's print-on-demand self-publishing platform. Now, a lot of times people, when they hear that Kindle word, they automatically just think it's an ebook, and it's publishing an ebook. Well, not too long ago, Amazon they're offering a print-on-demand paperback option with their Kindle Direct publishing service. So that's really, really cool. Now, getting an ebook published is not a difficult thing at all with the Kindle. You just need a PDF that's kind of set to their format, upload it, a cover, good to go. You don't have to worry about print quality or anything. It's actually a very simple process. Paperback is a little bit more in depth because you do have an issue of print quality, but let me tell you, Amazon, so their paperback books are they're really good quality. They're not, they're not the best quality out there, but they're not like the mass produced, super thin paper pages. They're decent quality paperback books. And what's cool is you can publish them and it doesn't cost you anything to do this. This is totally different than your traditional publishing, the way that you've probably heard how traditional publishing takes place, where you, and there's a lot more costs involved up front and, just different things. It's much simpler. So it's Amazon's print-on-demand self-publishing platform. Now let's talk about that print-on-demand for a minute. Some of you might be very familiar with that term, POD, we hear a lot of times. Some of you might not be, but basically what it means is you upload the parts of the book, your interior page and the cover, and then Amazon, they'll create the listing based on your criteria. You put the title and the author and your description, they'll create the listing, and when it doesn't cost you anything. When a customer buys your book, then Amazon obviously gets that money, they send you a royalty and they take their fees then. So you don't have to pay for a listing, you don't have to pay for any inventory. It is all free to get that book up on Amazon, and that's really valuable. And there are other services that do this as well. I would argue that Amazon's one of the best. There are services that integrate with Amazon, but we'll talk about why I really like KDP in just a minute. But that's what KDP is. Kindle Direct Publishing. It's Amazon's print-on-demand self-publishing platform for paperback and ebooks. Okay, but we're going to focus in on the value of those paperback books. So, if I can say this, I did just launch my podcast, and on the last episode, we talked about how all of these things that we, like people who are selling on Amazon, they're selling on eBay, they're selling on Facebook Marketplace, that a lot of times they answer the question, what's your business? And they say, well, I'm an Amazon seller. That Amazon, I would argue Amazon and eBay and Etsy, any of those, they're actually tools. That's not your business. And when you have that mind shift, it really impacts how you handle crisis, like what we're in right now. All of a sudden, it's easier to pivot because you don't have all your eggs in one basket. And I'm not talking necessarily about multiple income streams. That's a part of it. But just in that mind shift, of looking at these things as tools instead of your actual business. Now, KDP is one of these tools as well. So when we look at it that way, then we can apply strategy to it. And perhaps those strategies change based on our circumstances, but the tool is still a tool that we can use. So KDP is a tool. We're going to talk about strategy, and specifically, you guys, I know in the Legends group, talk a lot about replens. So we're going to look at how this is a replenishable strategy, okay? If you haven't picked up on it yet, because this whole print-on-demand thing is pretty sweet, and you literally upload once and you sell over and over and over again. You don't have to touch it again.
So for you guys that may not be aware what replenishable means, it's a product that sells over and over and over and over again. And in this group, obviously, we talk about things like physical products that you can get like at Walmart or something, but even with books, it's a replen that costs you nothing. So I'm excited about this one.
Which is crazy. And not only does it cost you nothing, with replens, don't you have to go and buy them again and ship them in?
You do. Yes. Or you have a shopper that does it for you,
right,
but yes, somebody has to do that. Absolutely.
That's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, that's part of how that works, but you don't have to do that here.
Right.
It automatically replenishes itself.
You don't have to write the book over and upload it.
No, wouldn't that be crazy? Oh, sold one, got to write it again. Put it up there. No, you don't have to do that. You put it up once and it will continue to work for you, over time. So that's huge bonus right there. So who was it that just got their first book up? I gotta go back.
It was Steven.
Steven, sorry. Yes. So that book will work for you a year from now,
Yeah.
6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from
Love
now.
it.
So you've done the work. You don't ever have to do that again. That's pretty cool. Okay. Now this might sound like it's too good to be true. And I think I'm an optimist, but I also can be a little bit skeptical. So this does cost something. There is a cost involved. However, you don't have to pay it out of pocket. It's like a rev share model.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes on the back end once the customer's bought something. So there's no risk involved. But there is, I just want to be clear that it might sound too good to be true, but there is a cost involved and you do pay for that in a way, but it's not out of your pocket. And that's another really cool thing. So KDP makes all this possible to be able to have an automatic replenishable, is that what I say? Automatically replenishable. That's a tongue twister that you guys need.
ARR.
ARR, that's way easier to say. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why KDP, okay? It's where the customers are, right? I mean, Amazon is insane right now. Online is insane right now. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So the customers, people, and Amazon started with books. I mean,
yeah.
Sometimes we'll go to our local bookstore online if we can't get to the store because they'll have old used books, but if I'm getting a new book, I'm going to find it on Amazon for sure. And so customers are there. There's also when somebody says, oh, I have a book on Amazon, all of a sudden you have some credibility, which is pretty cool. So there's a level of clout, I suppose, that you get from being a published author on Amazon that most people don't understand. Kind of like if you sell on Amazon already, most of the people in our world don't know that you can sell on Amazon. If you're a seller on Amazon, then you are so immersed in that it's easy to forget that most people don't have a clue. When I talk to people, I don't know, Ryan, if you've had this experience where, you talk to people and they're shocked that they're not buying from Amazon,
right?
From Amazon, which they are, but they don't realize there's a third party involved.
Sure.
So that's where the customers are. Again, no inventory costs. This costs you nothing out of pocket. You don't pay for the inventory. You don't have storage fees, which I think is on here. And how many of you guys have heard of merch and have a merch account? And right now you can't even upload merch graphics. You can't create any more shirts. Not sure how long that's going to last, but that account approval process is, that's been kind of a thorn in the side of merch, I suppose, where for me, years ago, it took me like 2 weeks to get approved. Some people, it took 6 months, a year, 2 years, they never even heard. With KDP, there's no long account approval process. You do have to set up an account. Mm-hmm. It's totally separate if you're already selling on Amazon from your seller account and from your merch account. It's another dashboard, but it's not a long account approval process. And this is cool too, because again, like with merch, you are limited to how many shirts you can list at a time. And like right now, you can't list any. With KDP, there's not a book limit. Now sometimes things might take longer if there's a lot of volume, but we have not yet hit a cap on how many books you can have up there. And along with that, which I don't mention later, is I get this question a lot where it doesn't have to be you don't have to be the author name. You can have a pen name. So you can actually have different brands or different series under the same KDP account. So your KDP account would be under your name or your business, your company, whatever that name, but your author for each book, it can be different. So anyway, that's pretty cool. No book limit. And you can bundle with other items. And I think, Ryan, this is where we first started talking about KDP. It used to be called Create Space. Mm-hmm. But if I remember right, maybe it was 5 years ago, and we were at a workshop at Brett Bartlett's place, and we were talking about private label and the opportunity to bundle with Create Space or KDP books. That's a huge, huge thing. And I think you guys talk about that a bit in in the Legends group too. I know that that's a
Mhm.
strategy that's come up. So this is like the best thing ever, though. I cannot say this enough. It's free. Okay, now we know not everything's free. Like I said, you do end up paying. There is a fee involved that comes from the customer, and Amazon takes their cut. You get yours. There's no out-of-pocket
Right.
costs, and that's what I
After the
mean when I say
sale.
it.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. And what that does, though, guys, is there is a mind shift that needs to happen, and you won't even realize it until you start catching yourself. I get questions all the time. Should I do a book that's an 8.5 by 11 or a 6 by 9? Should I do a blue cover or a purple cover? And it costs you nothing to get both types up. So why not just put both up and let that test and see what really works for you? So that's the mind shift, where you don't have to have it all figured out ahead of time. Part of the testing, we talk a lot about the value of validating and testing ideas first. Part of the testing with something like this is actually just doing it and seeing the response that you get, because the reason we validate and prove as much as we can on the front end is so that we don't invest resources, right? We don't waste money. We have less risk when we do that. Well, your risk is super minimal here already because there's no costs involved. So if you have questions like, should it be 50 pages or 150 pages? Well, try both and see what your market says. That's not going to take a whole lot more time on your part, and there's no monetary investment. There's not a lot of resources that are having to be added for that. So that's a mind shift when you're thinking about that things are free, that you are able to use this to test markets. And
that's brilliant. Can you have the same exact content with different titles to test different keywords? Wow.
You can, especially with low content books. Absolutely. Yeah. But okay, so there's another, we'll get into this a little bit more in a minute, but there's also the idea of what's different about KDP over other types of products that you might sell. Because we talk a lot about validating keywords, finding out how are customers searching for this type of product, and using those search terms in your listings and whatnot, and help you actually even to identify products that are selling. But here, there's that piece, but then there's also an emotional piece with books, and I think with some products too, but people really do judge a book by its cover. And so it's really hard to get that validation on a cover. You don't know are people really going to choose the purple one over the blue one? Well, maybe there's keywords that would prove that, but what about like for a llama journal or something like that? Do they want a photograph of a llama, or maybe they want a cartoon picture of a llama on the cover? Maybe they just want the words llama on the cover. Those are things that are hard to prove out with keywords. And so you can actually put different covers with the same keywords, the same title, the same interior pages, and test that way. So, and it doesn't cost you anything other than a little bit of time. And honestly, it doesn't take that much time. And you can outsource this to actually get the books up.
Love it.
Okay. I kind of feel like I'm speeding through this. Are we good?
Yeah, totally good.
Okay, so.
And we'll take all the questions. We can take a bunch of questions at the end, guys, too. So feel free to go ahead and post questions.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what KDP is and why you might want to pay attention to this. Let's dig into 3 KDP strategies. There's actually more than just 3. But we are going to focus the strategies around what I call low content or no content books. So this is not, we'll talk about it in a minute, but there's 3 KDP strategies, okay? So the first one is just publishing books, just publishing a lot of books, the KDP books. Someone mentioned about the 10 books in 10 days is a class that I have, and that's what this teaches, is how to publish a lot of books and to learn from your customer. I just mentioned, with a llama journal, you might have 3 journals. They're identical, but the covers are different, to figure out what's going to connect, what's going to have that emotional response with your customer. So once you learn that, then you can actually go and create more. If they like the llama photograph, maybe they like the fox photograph and the elephant photograph and the panda bear photograph, So that information can be valuable. But being able to, like Ryan, you even said, can you do different keywords with different books? Yes, absolutely. So publishing books, it's more a volume game and testing. So that's one strategy, one way to use KDP. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Another way, and I know this is actually more common now. People are talking about this than they were a few years ago when we first started talking about it. But the idea of being able to bundle, and we'll just camp here for a second. But when you're bundling with a KDP book, okay, you create a KDP book that gets up on Amazon as a listing. That's one listing for you that's free. And then you order author copies of that book and you bundle it with something like, this is a bonsai kit. And so it might not even actually be technically a bundle, but you have a book that's a part of other products that complements that. One, now you have your second listing, but you have just given your price point credibility. People are going to go, oh, I wonder how much that 101, whatever it is, bonsai things, I don't know what it is, crafts, or I don't know what it is, ways to grow bonsai
This
trees.
is not your bundle?
No, this isn't my bundle, sorry.
Oh, gosh.
And I don't have my glasses on to read what it says under 101. But I wonder, like, people might say, hey, I would do this. Hey, I want to go see how much that book is. Well, maybe by itself, that book is 15 or 20 bucks. Well, that book only costs me $2 or $3 to buy author copies. So I've just increased my profit margin 10 or 15 bucks. And nobody can compete with me on that unless they buy at full price the book. So bundle, this is a great strategy to justify your price point and give your price point credibility. And if you're not finding a lot of profit margin in some of the products that you're finding that sell really well, this is a really cool way to be able to increase your profit margin so that it makes sense to buy some of those products that maybe before you weren't willing to, there wasn't enough profit to be able to turn around and flip.
I love this strategy. And Jenny, you could also, let's say that you have like 5 different bonsai bundle or kits. You could use that same exact book. You wouldn't have to create 5 new books if you didn't want to, with new content on the inside of it. It could be the same exact book bundled in with those other bundles, as long as it's part of the same niche. And it would be almost impossible for somebody to jump on it. Yes, I could jump on this bundle, but I'd have to, as you guys know, you have to duplicate it exactly. So I'm going to have to go buy that book on Amazon to get it and put it in there, but I'm not going to be able to compete because my price on that book is $15 or $20. Whereas for you, the creator of it, it's $2 or $3.
Yep. It's brilliant. Actually, it's really, really cool. And it works. And what I found, like early on, we were talking about, I think this is where we started talking about KDP and using KDP with other products, is in this bundling idea. And as more and more people were incorporating this strategy, they were discovering that people were actually buying their books, and they weren't even optimizing them. So they were shocked to find that there was another revenue stream there. They weren't even creating the books for an additional revenue stream. They were only creating it for the bundle, but because Amazon automatically creates that listing, it was there and they were selling them. So that's, I mean, and you can do things to make it so that that listing for the book is optimized so you can increase book sales too. So you kind of,
love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Love it. Now for the person that's saying, oh, wait, I don't want to write a bunch of books.
Yep.
It's easy. You're going to talk about how easy it is to.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
In just a minute, let's go.
Because you don't have to sit there. Because like I know nothing about bonsai trees, and so I might look at that and be like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to write a 20-page book, 25, 50-page book. Even I think the minimum is 24, right?
Right.
That still sounds intimidating to me. And
Well,
I know it does for
you
you guys too. If you don't know anything about the bundle, some of the bundles you're selling, and I'm sure you're an expert on every single bundle that you have, and so it's super easy. You don't have to know anything about the content.
No. You don't. We'll get to that in just a second, but that's very, very important. But let's talk about the last. So there were 3 strategies, right? So this is 2. One is just publishing KDP books. The second one is bundling with KDP. And the third one is partnering with businesses. And this, if you need cash now, this is a really, really cool strategy. The publishing books can take a little while to build up. Sometimes they sell faster than other times. It depends on kind of how you hit it. But like I said, there's that emotional piece that it's hard to validate before you actually get the books up. So you've got to hit that emotional piece with that cover early on to be able to generate some revenue with just publishing books out. That's why it's a volume game a little bit. With bundling, if you already have a bundle that's going, it can take a little while to get some momentum, but the KDP partnering, you could go and get money tomorrow. So what this looks like is basically partnering with other groups that, other businesses that might offer some sort of low content, no content book, we'll talk about that in a minute, to their audience. So let's talk about what that looks like. So here's like low content, no content books. It's like a workbook or a log, a tracking book, a self-help book, a cookbook, something with quotes in it. So a lot of times I will talk to, I catch this all the time. A business coach, for example, I know that Jim's coaching. A lot of times the coaches first up, they say, hey, go get yourself a spiral bound notebook. And every day I want you to write this, this, and this down. That's what a business coach, that's what a life coach would probably do. Usually they incorporate journaling. Well, why not partner with them and say, hey, I can get you a real book, and it would be branded with your name on it. And it would just be a journal with its prompt. It has those 3 questions on every single page. And partnering with them, what you can actually do is have a setup fee, which can be up to $500. And you can earn money on each book that's sold as well, depending on how it's set up. You can even have a higher setup fee if it's more involved. But businesses don't blink at this. They don't want to be in the business of creating books, and they don't know that there's an opportunity like this. When they learn that you can work with them, and they only have to buy 1 book at a time instead of 1,000 books and having them there in their office, that's really huge for them. One of the examples I use frequently is you look at these low content books and you look at who uses those types of books. So I mentioned like life coaches or business coaches, but even like a fitness trainer, I use this example a lot, going to a gym and asking them, hey, what do you do with your clients? Do you have them? What do they track their workouts in? A lot of times they give worksheets out, or a physical therapist even. They give worksheets out, and what would be really cool for them is to have an actual workbook, a journal, something where they're logging, a tracker where they're logging. And it has on the outside the trainer's name, their contact information, the name of the gym, whatever. They can sell them in their gym. They can be on Amazon, and you can help so that's a whole nother business model. But I'm telling you, you can get money up front with that tomorrow. If you just need a book to bring in to show them, and it can be any book to show them the quality.
Yeah. So essentially to break that down, you would probably have them do like some type of setup fee.
Right.
You would charge them that, and you would go back and do the work for them. And guys, they might only have to have 1 sitting out at their place of business. So they don't have to, or like Jenny said, you don't have to order 1,000 or 500, even 5. They could have 1 as an example to show clients, and then give them a link. Or if they have a decent sized email list, they could send out a link to Amazon to their email. So you're leveraging that company's, their audience, and it's instant. It's easy, very easy money for you. It's not hard at all to set one of these books up.
No. And I imagine with everything kind of moving online right now in a very fast pace, that there'll be even more opportunity for this, because there's still something to be said for, a journal doesn't really work on Kindle. You can't really have an ebook version. I mean, you can make a printable version, like a PDF that's downloadable, but there still is something to be said about writing in a book. And I think as people are learning more how to leverage the internet to do things, having a journal or some sort of book, a physical thing that they can send to their clients or offer their clients, I think is going to become more valuable. But you just need to think, remember, it's this mind shift. You need to think a little differently. There's so many things. There's wineries, wine tasting books. There's lots of places where you go. It's a good date night kind of a thing where you go and learn how to cook Thai food or Mexican food or something like that. Those places could have a cookbook with their recipes in it. I mean, there's just lots and lots of opportunity. You just need to think a little differently. And hopefully I'll help you do that as we dig into more of what low content books look like. So we are going to be focusing, there we go. I'm not a writer. We are going to be focusing in on the KDP publishing the books, but that is really, you have to know that piece before you can do the bundling and before you can do the partnering. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys just we're going to go a little deeper in here to help you so that you can be more prepared to however you want to use the KDP strategy to build a new revenue stream. But like Ryan already brought this up, and this is usually the look I get from people. It's like, you've got to be kidding. I'm not a writer. What in the world are you asking me to do? I'm not going to listen to you anymore. And they're like out the door before I've even gotten to say much. And so maybe this slide should be for earlier up in the presentation. But honestly, guys, you don't have to be a writer to do this. We talked about just gave some examples of a journal, that type of a thing. Let's dig in a little bit more, because what happens with low content books, this is what they are. They are like journals, which I talked about. Now, let me ask you what a journal is, Ryan. Like, what do you think a journal, how would you define what a journal is?
A book where people can write their thoughts.
Right. So what does it look like?
Oh man, it could be spiral bound. It could be leather bound. It could just be paperback. It could just be a plain white notebook that somebody might use.
What do the pages look like?
They're usually blank, or they might just have lines in it.
Yeah. Guys, you ask any girl who's 13, maybe 12, 11 to probably 30, if they have any journals at home. And not kidding you, every time I ask someone, they say they have at least 3. Okay. It's super trendy right now too. And it's not just for girls, but I'm just letting you know that it's a huge market, because there are guys who journal too. It's not you could call it a diary, that used to kind of be like, journals were more for guys, a log, that type of a thing, kind of has more of a masculine feel to it than a diary. But it is all the same. It is lined interior pages or blank. Now with KDP, you can only have, I can't remember, either 3 or 4 blank pages. So you can still have blank pages where you only have the page number on them, or you have, a little quote at the bottom of the page, or some sort of graphic, something like that. You can even honestly have a stripe down the edge of your page. So there's ways to get around blank. By blank, they mean nothing on the page. So journals can be any of those, right? A prompt journal is something like a gratitude journal, maybe, where you say, today I'm thankful for, and that is at the top of every page, and then the rest is lines, or it could even be a doodle type of a journal. Another prompt journal is what I had suggested for like a life coach or a business coach, where they say, every day write down these 3 things. Maybe your 3 goals for the day, and then at the end of the day, say, grade yourself. How well did I do? What are my goals for tomorrow? Or whatever the questions are for that particular coach. Those are prompt journals, where you're prompting the person to journal about something in particular. A workbook, we all know, I have our workbook in the other room, but the workbook, we all did workbooks in school. They're just kind of like a fill in the blank type of a thing. It's like a prompt journal, maybe a little bit more purposeful, and getting the reader to go through a process of some sort, more teachable, more a training tool. A lot of teachers are having to go and figure out how in the world they're going to do this online. And they do have curriculum, but the curriculum for most schools are not designed for online. So maybe there's some opportunity there. I don't know. Logging something, tracking books, recipes we talked about, any type of self-help or an activity book. You could have tic-tac-toe grids on the pages, or a hangman, and it can be a travel activity book for kids.
Coloring book even?
Coloring book, absolutely. And now you might think those are saturated, but you niche down, Ryan. You have that. I don't know if you came up with it, but I credit you for it. The riches are in the niches, right? So you go deep, go deep. When you get into a real niche for adult coloring books, or those, you'll hit them good. So coloring books, a guide for something, like different kinds of birds, or even just logging like your bird watching for people. Now that's not my thing, so I don't really know what that would look like. But you guys, if you don't know, like with the bonsai, I wouldn't know what to put in there, but that was something like 100 tips or something. I could easily do research. We're not going to get into this too much, but you could go to Pinterest and see what's available there for different tips. Just educate yourself. There is services that you can say, I need an article on this topic, and they'll write the art, they'll do the research for you and give you the information that you need. So if you don't know, you can look at Pinterest. You can look at even, this is really cool, go to Amazon and look for books like what you're looking to do and be inspired. Now, don't copy what they're doing, but you can use what people are doing as a template for your own. You need to, make it your own. I'm really saying do not copy what other people are doing, but you can use that as inspiration.
Sure.
You really can. It's helpful. I find it helpful to go and to look and see what's out there. And you start looking at gardening books and travel journals and activity books and all of that. Or even just go to Barnes and Noble. I took Ryan to Barnes and Noble on a field trip a few years ago, and just to look for low content books, because I wanted to show how much opportunity is out there. And I would say a good portion of the store, now you can't do that now, unfortunately, but you can do it online, but a good portion of the store is low content books. So there's a huge market for it. All right, how are we doing on time? Let's keep going.
Doing well.
Okay, so KDP. Now, I'm talking about low content books, but you can write, if you have a book inside of you, man, KDP is a great way to go. You can also use traditional publisher, but I'm talking about using the low content book strategy with KDP tool. Okay, that equals opportunity. All right, but how do you really find that opportunity in there? That's one thing I wanted to dig into a little bit. And really, we get into this idea, we've talked about it a little bit, but this idea of validating. And so I'm gonna talk about publishing books. If you were gonna go with that strategy where you're just publishing a bunch of books, you're not partnering with somebody and you're not bundling, you want to be validating ideas as much as you can. Even though it's free to get books up there, your time is worth something too. And even though it doesn't take a lot of time, it does take some time, or you're paying somebody else to do it. So validating as much as we can is very helpful. So I wanted to talk about how you do that so that you guys can start doing that now if you wanted to. The first thing you need to do is you would go to kdp.amazon.com and set up an account. And remember, it's free. There's no long account approval process, but you do need to set up an account and set up your banking, because they won't allow you to create a book until you have that set up. They want to know where to send the money. So go to kdp.amazon.com. And then when you have ideas, this is how you determine what books what ideas to go after. Because you might have like this crazy cool idea for a book that is a journal of some sort. Maybe it's a prompt journal. But if you don't know how to find the audience for that, or if you don't, the better thing to do is to find the audience and figure out what are people looking for, and then create a book for that. Okay. Rather than going on your own hunch. Now you could, because it doesn't cost anything. And a lot of people do that. They'll do it for Christmas gifts. They want to make people or something, you could totally do that. But if you're looking to make money, I highly recommend that you validate some ideas. We look for ideas, find what customers are looking for. And then from there, we serve the customers well by creating a book just for them. Okay. So to do this, the first thing that you want to do, and in fact, this could be the only thing that you do, is we use the Amazon search bar right there. This is so powerful. We use it in a lot of different strategies for selling on Amazon. When you go to Google or you go to Etsy or Pinterest or pretty much anywhere online, even Facebook, you start typing in something and they start making suggestions because they think, oh, we're going to shortcut and we're going to, I think they're going to type this in because all these other people did. That's valuable information for us. And so Amazon does the same thing. So in that search bar, if I start typing in journal, Amazon starts making some suggestions. So here's what Amazon suggested at the time that I did this, which was a little while ago. This isn't an older screenshot, but the principle, this still is true. So you type in journal and Amazon will start making suggestions. Journal notebook, journal for men, journal for women, journal pens, journal with lock, journal for girls with lock and key, journal with prompts. So there's just a few. Journal with no lines, journal with lined pages, journal with a calendar. Okay, journal stickers. Now, okay, so what I do is I look at this, and these are all search terms. They're terms that customers are typing in the search bar to find things. And these are all suggested by Amazon because there has been some search volume behind it. We don't know the numbers, and really it doesn't matter. You could choose any of these here and go create a book. You could totally do that. And if you have no other tools to do that, I would recommend at least do this. Go get your books, put them up there, do a bunch of different covers for the same book to figure out what covers are gonna, connect with your audience, and go from there and start tracking and see what kind of sales you're getting, and do more of the sales that you're getting. So what I do, I look at this as journal, and then I just take note of, okay, what can I make a KDP book out of? Now remember, KDP only does paperback books. They do not do spiral bound. They don't do leather. They don't do hardcover, and they also don't have a lovely little ribbon mark book or bookmark in there. So they do paperback, and they do paperback well. So anything that shows up on the list from Amazon that they're suggesting when you type in journal could be a possible KDP option. So journal stickers is probably not something that you would use for KDP. Could be a bundle, right? You could do that with a bundle, but journal pens, again, not really something, but journals to write in for women, journal notebook, journal for men, journals to write in, journal for teen girls, for kids, boys, with prompts. And I didn't even mark them all, but those are just a few that come up when I type in journal. So this is what, if I typed in travel jur, however you pronounce that, yeah. So I didn't even type in the whole word journal. So it's travel, Jour, and as you're typing, Amazon starts making suggestions. And I got travel journal for women, travel journal for kids, for men, travel journals to write in for women, travel journal for teens, and travel journal with prompts. There's a lot of books here just from this, which is pretty cool. So you can take this and run with it from here. This is really all you need. Okay, this would be giving you some validation that, okay, there are people searching for these terms. I'm going to create a travel journal with prompts and put it out there and see what happens. You could totally do that. I'm going to talk a little bit deeper. We're going to go a little deeper and talk about other more ways to validate. You do need a tool, another tool for this. So if you don't have a tool, don't want to invest in this, it's a new one, I totally get that. So don't let that hold you back from moving forward with KDP. You can just use what Amazon is suggesting and move forward. Because remember, that mind shift doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything. And actually, you could do some of this without a tool. So let's talk about further validating. How do we really prove out these ideas? How do I really know if travel journal for women, can I get more confirmation that that's the direction I want to move into, or that makes sense to move into? So we're going to talk about the 3 R's. I have to give Stephen Hibbert credit for this with me. We worked to pull together these 3 R's for KDP a while back. And really, this is a guideline. It's a really good place to start. I'll talk about ways you can modify it to get a little stricter, but it's pretty simple, okay? So the 3 R's are, number 1, we're going to look at results, we're going to look at rank, and we're going to look at reviews. So first is results. And when we run a search on Amazon, it gives you results, right? So if you say travel journal for kids, and you hit return, it's going to give you a whole bunch of results. Well, we want to see that the number of results that they give you is less than 3,000. Now you can tighten that number up a little bit more if you want. This helps us gauge how competitive it is. So if you want to see less than 3,000 and kind of tighten in a little bit more, go ahead and do that. But the 3 R's altogether kind of balance each other out. And you might find if you go less with the results, you might have a harder time on the other two confirming that. But, and I'll show you that in some of the examples. Overall, for results, we want to see that there's less than 3,000. Now, Amazon does this weird thing, and they'll probably change it tomorrow. But they used to, in the good old days, they used to actually give you the number of results that came up. They don't do that anymore. Once you get over 1,000, then they start saying, 1 to 16 of over 1,000 or 1 of 16 of over 2,000. So this tells me that it's under 3,000, though. That's what I'm looking for, right? So this was Memory Journal for Mom. And if you don't know what a Memory Journal for Mom is, all you have to do is search that and start looking and seeing what the results are. And it'll show you different ideas. So the 3 R's, we want to see, first of all, does it pass? Is there results less than 3,000 for that search term, Memory Journal for Mom? And this says 1 of 16 of over 2,000 results, which means it's less than 3,000 results. And so that does pass the first R.
So you're saying if it was like 3,024, it would say 1 through 16 of over 3,000.
Yes.
And if it was 4,059, it'd say over 4,000. Okay.
Yep. Right. So it's dumb the way they do it. Frankly, it's like, let's confuse people. I don't know why they do that, but they are not willing to give out that number once you get over 1,000. So that's how it is right now. However it's displayed, you want it to be less than 3,000. That's the rule for that first R. So the next one is bullet journal, and those have become very popular. And if you search bullet journal, there's probably more results than this now. But basically, Amazon says it's showing numbers 1 of 48 through 48 of over 10,000. That clearly is not less than 3,000. So that does not, I wouldn't even move forward with that bullet journal. Maybe niche down, get tighter so that you can get those results to be smaller. Maybe if you did bullet journal for teens or bullet journal with llama, or bullet journal with lines or something like that, you'd get lower results. But bullet journal is not something to pursue on its own. It doesn't pass. It's got too many results. So another one is handwriting workbook for adults. This one shows 1 of 16 of 321 results. So like I said, if you get under 1,000, it tells you the exact number. So this would pass the first R. It has less than 3,000 results. So that was something you could move forward on with the other 2 R's to validate further. Another one, Journal for Women Inspirational. And this one has over 7,000 results. So it clearly is not less than 3,000. So this one does not pass that first R. So that's the first R. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's results less than 3,000. Then we want to look at the rank. Now, I know you all know here that rank is really just looking at a tiny little snippet of time. We are not looking at an individual listing. We want to see the market space, okay? And so rank is just something that can help us know whether or not this will ever sell. Now, anyway, I don't want to get too deep into this. It's just a level of validation, okay? We're just looking at the average rank for all of the books in the first 10 or the whole first page, just to get an idea of whether or not this is even going to sell. I mean, if it's got 5 million or more, it's probably not going to be a market you're going to want to get into. There's not enough demand there. So it's just a gauge for us, okay, to help us move forward. So this is what this looks like. And this is using Jungle Scout. There's another tool, I don't know, however you can get the rank, okay, whatever tool you guys use. You want to look at average rank because you're looking at that space. And so this one is Garden Journal and Logbook. And if you look over here, it has less than, when you search immediately on Amazon, it tells you there's 426 results. So it passes that first star, it has less than 3,000. And then that average rank, we want to see it's under 1 million. Okay, this one has 491,000. So this is a phrase to move forward with and build a book around, as long as it passes that third R, which we'll get to in a minute. So garden journal and logbook. All right. Here's another one. This is journal for a lost loved one. This one has 1.5 million average for your sales rank. So it's probably not something that's really going to pursue. You're going to pursue. Now look over here where it says number of results. It has 95. So what you'll find is the lower your results are, usually the less likely that they sell. Okay. Usually a market that has a lot of sales, like if travel journals are really popular, travel journals for kids, vintage travel journals, you know, that have some sort of vintage type or steampunk type of cover type of a thing. Those have gotten more popular. So they're going to have more results. There's going to be more competition, but they're going to sell more too. So this number will be lower with more items that have more results. So you got to find that sweet spot. So this one has 95 results, but it has a 1.5 million average rank for journal for a lost loved one. So it's not likely that this will be a good seller. You won't be selling a lot of them, if any at all. But I will just give this little disclaimer. Remember of that mind shift, it is free. If you are like set on, no, I want to do a journal for a lost loved one, by all means, go for it and just do it. You know, it'll be 45 minutes of your life, 30 minutes of your life, or $10 that you outsource, whatever. Go ahead and do it. That's all. There's no money out of pocket if you're really tied to it. But that is a gauge that we use. So that one I would actually pass on that one unless I really felt a need to get that out. Or I knew, okay, here's the other thing. If I knew I was partnering with someone who had, this would hit their audience well, I would throw the 3 R's out the window, frankly. Okay, this is for just getting books up to find out what Amazon buyers are shopping for. Right. That's what we're doing. If you're partnering with somebody or you're bundling, this isn't quite as important, because if you're bundling, you've already done some validation on those products and you're really just using a book to increase your price point and make your bundle unique. And if you're partnering with somebody who already has an audience that they're going to be selling to, most likely. So keep that in mind as you're applying this. Okay, so we talked about results need to be less than 3,000. And we talked about the average rank needs to be less than 1 million. And the third R is reviews. And we want to look at those first 10 listings that come up after you do a search. And you want to see that 3 or 4 of them have less than 50 reviews. This helps us gauge the competition. So again, this is a slide with Jungle Scout, which is one of the tools that provides this information, but really you could just look at each listing and see it very quickly, how many reviews there are in those first 10. And you want to see again that in those first 10, 3 or 4 of them have less than 50 reviews. So I do not know what this, I think it's Cactus Bullet Journal at the time. It had, I don't know how many results there were because that's cut off on the side, but the average rank was 502,000. So that was less than 1 million. And then if I look at the reviews for those first 10, 8 of them are under 50. So that would pass. So that's how we validate with those 3 R's. Look at results, rank, and reviews.
Good stuff. Jenny, thank you again for doing this.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Yep.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.